Hello, friends, and welcome to Ayt's Picks, week number 13. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. I'm going to get to the picks this week. A lot to cover. Florida and Tennessee. This week is usually, this rivalry is usually played in the third weekend of September. But due to scheduling and all the changes in college football, it's the second to last game of the season. But first, coffee. All right, Gator fans and other college football fans and supporters who care about me. That's why you're watching. I definitely appreciate you. Because I'm a historian, I like to begin the show. This weekend's Aydt Bite in history, as I call it, Aydt Bite in coffee, is going to be about the richest man that ever existed. Mansa Musa. He was a ruler of the Mali Empire, which is in current modern day encompasses the Sahel and the Savannah in northwest Africa. So the region basically that's south of the Sahara, between the rainforest is the Savannah and the Sahel, which is like a mixture between the Savannah and then the desert. It's like kind of deserty and arid, but it does have some plants and vegetation too. So his empire was in that Savannah Sahel region. Mansa Musa existed from 1280 to 1337 in the year of our Lord. His empire was pretty powerful for that time, especially in Africa, when a lot of the people of Africa were still very primitive and lived in tribes. He had a full-on empire, and his assets and worth in gold was the equivalent of today's 1.6 billion US dollars. That's a lot of gold. And when he took his pilgrimage to Mecca, he was a Muslim. So all Muslims that are able, it's part of their faith to go to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. And his Hajj, or his pilgrimage to Mecca, he was known for being very generous. He gave a lot of gold to people along the way that were impoverished, and history paints him as a pretty good dude. And in addition to being the richest man in the world, in world history. Now that's debated about among some historians. A lot of people would claim that some of the Roman emperors were more rich, but there's really no way of telling. But from all the sources that I've seen, I think Mansa Musa was by far the richest individual in terms of total gold and wealth. The guy could do whatever he wanted. So that's my history for this week. Look, all this stuff going on with Lane Kiffin, nobody really knows but Lane Kiffin. So I open up social media, and everybody, like, I'm about 2 hours from Baton Rouge here, living in southern Mississippi. So I get a lot of local stuff from LSU. One day they're thinking, oh, a deal is done. You know, he signed this much for this much million a year. And then they're just trash clickbait. Florida has the same thing. I don't know that any of those rumors are true either. about his ex-wife, or I guess they got back together. Layla was down in Gainesville because she's UF alum. But also his daughter is dating an LSU player, so apparently they were in Baton Rouge as well the next day. But I am getting sick of all these rumors. Like, it's just clickbait. Whenever I see it on the internet, like, I keep scrolling. I don't even bother to read it. But here's what I tell you I think's going to happen. So I watch Allie Peak's show. She's one of the better Gator podcasters that I listen to. Her husband was a punter for UF, like back under Zook and Meyer, early 2000s. And when we won the championship in 2006, he was on that team. So he has kind of like an insider scoop. Plus, Allie has family that played for Florida. And she had an interview with Urban Meyer. And despite all the trash that Urban Meyer and Lane Kiffin talked, especially during the Tebow years, when Urban said he was going to come in, or when Lane, said he was going to come in here and win and beat us. They gave us a good game in 2009, but Lane was saying stuff like, oh, we're going to come, when we beat Florida in the swamp, we're going to be singing Rocky Top all night long. And then he accused Meyer of a scandal that ended up imploding on him, in which he had to apologize to the UAA. But surprisingly, Urban said that him and Lane Kiffin are friends. And Lane Kiffin has talked to Urban Meyer about the Florida job. That's a primary source. Urban said it firsthand in the interview. And so my thinking on putting two and two together, Ole Miss has a bye week this week before they play Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl next week. Urban Meyer will be in Gainesville this weekend at the Florida-Tennessee game because he's getting inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. And so he'll be honored on Florida Field. Wouldn't that be something if he introduced Lane Kiffin as Florida's next coach? I kind of have a suspicion that that'll happen. That would be the perfect time, at least. That would, if you think Lane Kiffin's a troll now, boy, he's going to be hated by the entire state of Mississippi and probably half of Louisiana too. But that's on to my next point. I just want to say how proud I am of our Florida Gator fan base and how loyal we are, and why the University of Florida is one of the greatest institutions in America. Like, Florida is 3-7. This is one of our worst years in the history of Florida football. Somebody said going back to 1979, we haven't had this bad of record, and that year we finished 0-10-1. We didn't win a single game that year, and that was back when you could tie, so who knows if we even would have won that game if it was modern day, because we would have had to go into overtime. But Florida's selling this game out at 3-7 for our 17th consecutive sellout. That's how much Florida Gator fans love Gator football. Now, don't tell me that LSU and Ole Miss are better places when they're actually good teams, and Ole Miss can't even fill up the student section. It just doesn't make any sense. And LSU hasn't been able to sell out every game, and lately they've been better than Florida on an annual basis. So I'm really proud of Florida's fan base. And that's probably what attracts people like Lane Kiffin to come here, because he even made a comment, like when they played Citadel 2 weeks ago before us, that they couldn't even fill up the student section. Florida's fans are loud and proud regardless of the record. On to the picks. I've got number 1, Ohio State. They shouldn't struggle versus Rutgers. They play them in Columbus. They'll beat Rutgers by a score of 55-7. Moving on, Texas A&M. Man, that victory they had versus South Carolina last week, I only caught part of it because I was up in Oxford. I went to the game last week, so I was kind of exploring the area. But when they were down 30-3 at halftime, I was like, yeah, forget my, because I had picked it a few weeks ago. I was like, Texas A&M is a tough team, and I think they're going to go all the way, like win the national championship at this point. Either them or Georgia are playing like the best football in the country, the most consistent. But man, they were down 30-3 and came back and won that game. That shows a lot of heart, a lot of resiliency. And they have proven me right. They'll continue to win, and I don't see any obstacle for them. And they're playing Division II school in Samford. They shouldn't struggle. I think they win 66-3. Got number 4, Georgia, the Dogs. They play Charlotte. Man, this is like a pat 'em up game for some teams before they play their rivals. Georgia shouldn't struggle. They'll beat Charlotte 56-10. I've got number 8, Oklahoma. I picked that upset last week when they played Alabama. That was impressive. I watched the very end of that game when they stopped Alabama at midfield, about 4th down with like a minute left. Venables, their coach, has got that team headed in the right direction. But they play Missouri. These two used to be in the Big 12 together, believe it or not, as much as the Big 12 has evolved. Actually, even before that, they were rivals in the Big 8. That was what the Big 12 became before 1995 when they merged what used to be known as the Southwest Conference and then the Big 8. And the Southwest Conference was like Texas, Texas Tech, and all the Texas schools like Baylor. They merged them with the Big 8 schools, forming the Big 12. And that's how you got the Big 12. But Oklahoma and Missouri haven't played each other in a long time. I think since Missouri joined the SEC in 2012. But I think Oklahoma's just too good and peaking at the right time. I think they'll beat number 22 Missouri at home by a score of 27-13. Got number 9, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Man, they're peaking well. I like Marcus Freeman. That dude's a good coach. Apparently, he was one of the first people that Strickland reached out to about the coaching vacancy, and he straight up said no. But rumor has it the only place he'll leave Notre Dame for is Ohio State, and that's pretty obvious. I mean, because he was an alum there. But Notre Dame plays Syracuse, and I think they'll win by a score of 34-12. Number 10, Alabama. They're playing at home against Eastern Illinois before they play Auburn in the Iron Bowl next week. I think the Tide will win easily by the score of 38-0. I got number 12, the Utah Utes, playing Kansas State at home in Salt Lake City. They beat K-State by a score of 52-20. K-State is normally good, but they're having like a really bad year this year. Number 13, I've got the U. Miami goes to Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia. Plays Virginia Tech. They shouldn't struggle there. Virginia Tech's having a bad year. They did hire James Franklin though. That'll be a good spot for him. He's from Pennsylvania, and so he recruits the DMV really well. That's Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. And so he can bring those players to Blacksburg. So, yeah, that was a good move by Virginia Tech hiring him. I think he'll do well there. But I think Miami spanks Virginia Tech. They'll score 55-20. Number 14, Vanderbilt plays Kentucky in Nashville. Man, that's so crazy how much college football's changed, because historically, before all this NIL and stuff, the modern era, you can just buy a team like Vanderbilt did with Pavia. And I mean, granted, they do have a good coach, but Vanderbilt and Kentucky used to be like instant wins. Like when Florida played them, you knew it was going to be a win. Now, like, Florida's at the bottom looking up. It's just, I mean, hopefully whoever our next coach is, whether it's Kiffin or someone else, they'll get us back to where we need to be. But the fact that Vanderbilt and Kentucky are good is pretty much what the NIL era is responsible for, a result of it. But I think Vanderbilt beats Kentucky by a score of 27-17. I've got number 16, the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech, playing Pittsburgh at home in Atlanta. I think they beat Pitt by the score of 21-14. Got number 17, Texas, playing in Austin versus Arkansas. I think this will be a closer game because Arkansas is playing people pretty hard, even though they aren't coming up on the victorious side, kind of like Florida, with the exception of playing Kentucky. But I think Texas will win this game. It'll go into the fourth quarter, but I think Texas pulls away in the end. They'll beat Arkansas by a score of 24-17. I've got number 18, Michigan, going to play Maryland. They'll beat Maryland by the score of 48-10. And for my upset pick of the week, Florida and Tennessee. Everything about this game tells me that Florida's going to upset Tennessee. Tennessee has not won in the swamp since 2004. They have had like the worst possible luck you can imagine. When I was overseas, when I lived in England for 3 years, when I was stationed there, I remember it was like 3 a.m. Sometimes I would have like work the next day as well. Well, the game would get over at like 3 a.m. depending on the time of year. And so I didn't really have any of the streaming networks then. That wasn't much of a thing. So I would like get one of the jailbroken ones, and I would go to like McDonald's. This is before I had Wi-Fi too in my place over there. And I remember watching one of those games. I think I was deployed or on a mission to Spain from that game that we played when Will Greer, we were down like 27-14, and Will Greer was our quarterback. That was under McElwain. That was 2015. And we ended up getting a touchdown and stopping Tennessee. And then like my network that I was streaming cut out like when we had that fourth down play. I was like, oh man, I don't know what happened. But then I turned on the radio, like the WRUF. I was able to connect into that. And then I heard Mick Hubert calling, Florida scores a touchdown. Oh my. And I was like, what in the world happened? And so the streaming rebuffered or whatnot, and I was able to see Callaway score that touchdown on the replay. And Tennessee still could have won that game, but they missed a field goal at the end. And then I was in Lithuania on deployment doing counter Russian deterrence when that freaking we threw the heave to cleave when Felipe Franks threw that Hail Mary. We probably would have gone into overtime if it wouldn't have been. Oh yeah, we definitely would have, because it was 20-20. But I remember having bad internet there too, and then for some reason it cut out. But then I saw the final play, and then I was listening to Mick Huber at the same time, and he's like, "And Florida beats Tennessee again." And that just summarizes all of Tennessee's troubles in the swamp. Like, they can't buy a win versus Florida in the swamp. And combined with the fact that our fans are filling that place to the brim, and we're 3-7, there's going to be excitement in that place, and it's going to be loud. And I foresee Tennessee having problems again. Tennessee's defense is not great. They're one of the worst in the SEC. Our offense isn't that great either, but we've played some pretty tough teams. I think this game will be 28-28, and it'll go into overtime. And I'll say Tennessee gets first possession and Florida gets a pick. And then Florida hits a 50-yard field goal by Trey Smack in the end to beat Tennessee by a score of 31-28. And this will be satisfying because this is the last time Florida plays Tennessee for a few years because of the new scheduling. That kind of makes me sad because, growing up, Tennessee was one of our greatest rivals, and we played them every year. And so that's been 35 years because 1990 we started playing them, and then the division split to East and West. So we just happened to be playing Tennessee in 90 and 91, and then we were in the same division from 92 to last year, or 2023, when the SEC stopped the divisions. But yeah, that's going to be a rival I'm sad not to see every year. But that's why this game is important for both sides, and I think Florida comes out on top despite us being very bad right now. It's just the magic of the swamp. It's going to happen. Number 21, Illinois, goes into Madison, plays Wisconsin. Wisconsin's having a bad year this year. I don't know if they fired their coach yet, but that's uncharacteristic of Wisconsin. They're usually one of the best in the Big Ten, year in and year out. And past few years, they've just kind of fallen off. But I think Illinois under Bielema, they're well coached. I think they beat Wisconsin by the score of 28-10. I got number 23, the Houston Cougars, playing TCU in this Big 12 matchup. They barely beat TCU. They'll win by a score of 27-23. Number 24, Tulane. They play Temple. I think they'll beat them 35-7. Got number 25, Arizona State, playing at Colorado. Man, Dion has just gone down the tubes, despite all the hype and media around him. I don't know if he can have another team come together as he did when Shador was there and Travis Hunter and all them. But we'll see. Nevertheless, I think Arizona State wins this game handily. They beat Colorado by the score of 41-21. For my bonus pick of the week, we've got the game, even though recently neither of these teams have been any good. Cal-Stanford is still one of the neatest rivalries in the nation. I think that's because of that game. You always see in highlights of, it was kind of on par with Kick Six. But it's back in the 80s when Cal won the game when the band came out on the field because everybody thought the game was over and they kept throwing laterals, and then they finally made it to the end zone and they beat Stanford. So I think Cal will beat Stanford this year. They'll beat them by a score of 35-31. For my other D1 Florida schools, I've got Jacksonville State over at Florida International by a score of 37-10. I've got UCF over Oklahoma State by a score of 17-14. I've got UConn over FAU by the score of 36-7. I've got South Florida over UAB by the score of 30-14. And I've got Florida's second-rate University over NC State by the score of 31-7. Prepare next week for the Sunshine State Showdown. That's going to be awesome, especially if Florida indeed pulls it off this weekend. Even though the teams are bad, Florida always brings it for that game. That's my favorite rival. So I've been to most of the SEC campuses, and I'm going to list my favorites out of that. As far as the college town, I got to hand it to Ole Miss. That impressed me last week. It was clean. The people were nice. It was a really small town. For my Florida folks, it's like putting a major SEC university in Lake City. That's kind of what Oxford reminded me of, like that kind of a small town, but with a major university in it. I'd say the most passionate fan base I've been to is Tennessee. They're also the second loudest stadium outside of the Swamp. The worst fans, like the nastiest fans that will probably threaten you, are LSU. I got called a whole bunch of names there for just existing. I didn't initiate anything. No death threats though, but just names. Where else have I been? South Carolina is a pretty neat. I went there a long time ago. I went there with my family and some family friends in 2000, or it was 1995. So I don't even remember it that well, but that was fun. It was a smaller town. Fans there were nice. I don't know if I could say like if it's the best or not and anything, but where else? I've been to I think that's about it in the SEC, to be honest with you. I've got a lot more SEC. I've been to Florida State a bunch. I've been to Miami, both when they were at Hard Rock and then the old Orange Bowl before they tore it down. But yeah, that's about it in terms of SEC schools I've been to. Oh, Mississippi State. They probably have the most loyal fans, I'll say that, because they had all those cowbells there, and the people show up there, man. Probably in the state of Mississippi, at least in Biloxi where I'm at, people either go LSU because Baton Rouge is so close, but I'd say most people around here are Mississippi State fans. Honestly, more than Ole Miss. Like living in Mississippi over a year, I've seen a lot more Mississippi State fans in this area than I have Ole Miss. There's also some Bama fans because I live like 10, 15 minutes from the Bama line. So yeah, you got some that pull for the Tide too, but yeah, not a lot of Ole Miss in this area, mostly Mississippi State and LSU. my goal one day with one of my buddies, we're going to go, after I retire, we're going to go and see all the major stadiums in the nation. And then I'll have like a more detailed report of my favorites and what I don't like. Forgot about Texas. Yeah, shoot. I've been to Texas A&M. That's my favorite place to watch a game. Like, that's a cult-like environment, man. Those dudes, there's so many traditions there. They have the Corps of Cadets. They're pretty loud as well, and they have a lot of chants. And I tell you, that is, nobody can ever tell me that the Texas and Texas A&M rivalry isn't among the best when you literally have a fight song that talks about sawing Texas's mascot's horns off and how much they hate the University of Texas. Yeah, that's like Texas A&M is something else. If you haven't seen a game there, you got to go. Those people are cult-like crazy there. Probably the funnest city with the university is Austin, UT at Austin. There's just so much to do in Austin, and it's not only a major college campus, but it's also a major city. Austin's like the 7th largest city in the nation, and so you got pretty much something for everybody there. But yeah, as far as the SEC schools, those are the ones that I've been to. There's something cool that I enjoyed about every one of them. But yeah, by far my favorite place to watch a game was Texas A&M. You got to go see a game in Aggie Land, College Station. And then best college town, definitely Oxford, Mississippi. All right. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Y'all have a safe weekend. Enjoy Thanksgiving. I'll probably be coming to you next Friday instead of Thursday because I'll be eating Thanksgiving as well. So thank you for watching and supporting me. Aydt signing off. God bless.